Hey everyone. Okay, so jumping right into the thick of it, the chapter wastes absolutely no time in getting us to Yuki no Cosmos and Planet Miltz, where we're then reunited with Rachel and Connor, but immediately following that, as well as some discussion involving Pino, we'll get into later, time suddenly stops and an assassin seemingly sent by one appears, and honestly, I know we keep going back and forth to this old well of discussion, but at this point I have to assume that person we see at the end of the chapter is Lightning Law. Like, I'm anywhere from 75 to 80% certain it's that's from who that assassin is. Which, if that is her, it suddenly begs the question of who she is and just what the nature of her power is, because her abilities are seemingly time-based like Rachel and Rebecca, but unlike those two who can like mold and change the fabric of time, this is the ability to freeze it, which, if this is Lightning Law, then Mashima added a very interesting twist to the dynamic of time travel, and even more so her name, which is to say that while Lightning Law's powers aren't lightning based, the ability to control the perception of time in itself is kind of the way she does definitely would give one the impression she can move as fast as lightning, probably. Now, the bigger question is why she's here and seemingly targeting Rebecca specifically, because the end of this chapter definitely reveals something. Again, it definitely, the end of this chapter with Lightning Law's stopping time, it definitely kind of expands upon time travel in this world, in the sense where even though Universe Zero doesn't have time travel specifically, it doesn't mean there aren't other forms of time-based abilities. It doesn't mean other forms of time-based abilities don't exist either. So in that sense, Rebecca's a rarity, but that still doesn't entirely answer the question of how that fits into this and into one's end game specifically, because the only thing I can think is that with the reveal Rachel made in the chapter that Miltz more or less acts as the doorway to Mother, I get the feeling the key to unlocking that door does involve Rebecca's powers in some way. And on a more lighter note, like the final page of establishing Law's powers seems to set up a fight between her and Rebecca, so the dynamic of this brawl should be interesting considering how both powers kind of cancel each other out. With that said, though, we got to talk about the Pino, what the review we get about Pino in this chapter, which is we're told to us there are still secrets and memories locked deep within Pino's memory banks, and this is where I go full unhinged conspiratorial theorist with the discussion, but we're basically told rather early in the series that Ziggy gave up his search for Mother upon finding Shiki and choosing to raise him on Granbull, which in retrospect, I suppose we partly know why that is now. But honestly, I genuinely believe that even if Ziggy failed to find Mother, he still somehow discovered the secret of Shiki's origins and how they are tied to Mother as well. Now, this is where things get complicated, because while I still don't entirely know how the Starshine's memories factor into this, I think what happened is he still uploaded the coordinates to the general direction of Mother's location into their memories in the hopes that they'll help Shiki reunite with Mother when the time came. But around that same time that happened. The same time that happened, probably what also happened, I think what also happened is that's around the same time when one had resurfaced and started warping Ziggy's mind to become his pawn. So I think knowing he would eventually give in to one's like influence, I think acting quickly he probably erased the Starshine's memories and stored them inside Pino, trusting that when the time came, Shiki would open that Pandora's box to find and defend Mother from one. Again, I'm fully aware a lot of what I'm saying more than likely doesn't line up with what we know, but it's the only thing that makes sense to me right now with the information we have. Now, as far as what the connection to Shiki and Mother is, I'm kind of on board with thinking Shiki, like one, is a creation of Mother. Again, don't know how the logistics of this would work in terms of the story as we know it, but my gut is telling me, at least to some extent, that's more or less what happened and how Shiki came to be, so to speak. With that said, I'm not gonna lie, this feels like one of those chapters that might translate a little bit better in the anime, because well, there's not anything inherently wrong with this chapter. It is when we get our first big view of the Yukino Cosmos, where there is a little bit of a crack, an artistic crack, so to speak. Like, in the sense where it does feel like Mashima struggled a little bit to properly portray a snowy environment in manga format. In manga format against a white background, because yeah, that whole spread of the Yukino Cosmos, it definitely felt that did feel like a bunch of like paint splotches on a white background. That's all I could think when seeing it. And it wasn't until we actually landed on Miltz where I guess the portrayal of snow actually looked better, because it was drawn against a more contrasting background. Like you could say, and yeah, obviously we see that Feather act. Obviously, more than that, we also, when we get to Miltz, we see that Feather acts as Rachel's assistant in this universe. And honestly, I hope that's a sign we're gonna get more with her, whether that's working with the crew or some form of development that we're gonna get with her, like what we got with Holy when going up against Crow, because and hopefully that's just kind of the same deal here, because of all the Union Army members, Feather has always been the one member that's kind of just kind of feels like she's there and not leaving much of an impression. She's just kind of always in the background, not doing much, and it just kind of, it's always felt like kind of perplexing a little bit of why she's here, or why Mashima created her. But again, hopefully that's with this reintroduction of her, hopefully that's going to be a little bit more development there. Of course, there's other little details that are kind of interesting to talk about, like parental sex innuendo aside. It is interesting to know Connor isn't exactly an ace pilot in this universe anymore. So, like how we knew him. So it's kind of telling us we're going to be flying solo without him from here on. Which, not gonna lie, even though the crew has shown to be more than capable and has definitely grown stronger over the course of the series, it does still worry me a little bit about what's going to happen without Connor there, without Connor's ace pilot abilities there. Also, outside of my little conspiracy theory, it is interesting how post-mortem we're still expanding upon the connection Siggy made throughout his travels, and that his journey to Yukino is what motivated him to make a prototype of the spa on planet Miltz in the form of like the ship's bathhouse. Like, it's one of those little details you don't think about, but it really makes the world feel lived in and alive. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, analyst Crunchyroll, be sure notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Vinay signing off. Later, everyone.